one of the foundational tenets of therapy is you cannot understand the perspective of another human. And so much of the trouble we get into is that we think we can. We have this idea, we think we can read people's minds. We think, I've known this person a long time, or I have a sense of who they are, and I can guess at their thoughts, beliefs, feelings. Study after study, how tremendously bad we are at doing this, even with people you think you know really well. So why are we so bad at it? We're bad because we don't have access to other people's internal states. So the question is, well, then how do you do it? How do you actually connect with somebody? How do you understand what they need to hear? And the answer is so simple that it sounds stupid to say out loud. Stop guessing, start asking.
Hello, and welcome to another conversation inside of 33 Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Michael Abney, also the founder of 33 Strangers. And I am blessed to get to talk to amazing people all over the world about business, founding things, what it takes to start an idea and make it work and fulfill on it in today's world that we're living in. And this is my love letter to all the people that have that dream inside of them. Maybe stuck with fear or paralysis wherever they're at, or looking at the world and going, where do I fit in all of that? But the reality is, just step in and get beyond your fears. So we're having conversations with amazing people to inspire us, give us information, and just put a spotlight on what it looks like to be human inside of all of that. And I am blessed beyond blessed today to be talking with Brian Miller. Brian Miller Speaks. Thank you so much for being here. You are a message strategist. You are an award-winning speaker and a trusted voice in, I love this, bringing experts, like recontextualizing that, what that means for people in today's world where truth is sort of like taking a back seat and we kind of don't understand what's going on with it. So I'm honored to have you here and just really excited to dive into an incredible conversation about what you do and how your insights can help people like us that are founding things, that are building things, to use our voice to connect. So thank you for being here. Welcome.
Michael, thanks so much for having me. It's an honor.
So tell me, I listened to the TED Talk this morning. Super, super inspiring. Man, I love that outfit too. You gotta love that outfit.
In the TED Talk? Oh my God.
There's something about your energy in that was like, man, I could relate to that.
Listen, as long as you mention the outfit from the TED Talk, let me make an aside, which you can't even make an aside before you've begun, but we may as well start with an aside. I have been asked countless times in the 10 years since that TEDx talk went viral, what did you do to make that talk go viral? I get asked that a lot. Like, first of all, I didn't make it go viral. If I knew how to make a video go viral, every video I'd ever made would be viral. But I can guess in the 10 years since about a few of the things. One of the things that I am convinced played a role is the thumbnail of the video, which I didn't choose, neither did the conference. TED lets YouTube's algorithm auto-choose because they upload too many videos. They can't manually choose these. And the thumbnail that it grabbed was me holding two pieces of rope. I'm wearing a fedora, wearing a gray suit with long hair at the time, longer than it is now. The title of the talk is about human connection. And so you're scrolling on YouTube going, who is this fedora wearing magician in a suit talking about connection? There's just something incredibly weird about all of those elements that I think the curiosity factor got a lot of clicks. And so when you mentioned the energy of the suit and there's fedora and there's I don't think I've ever worn that outfit before or after in my life. I don't know how that came about, but here we are.
It was just perfection because it embodied who you were. It just made you, to me, more authentic. So I, leaned in and where are you going with this thing? How can this be? So if you guys haven't watched it, just go watch it. It was a really amazing way to start my day today. But in what you do, was there a moment where you, when you flipped into this, or how you started? You started as a magician, somehow speaking, and all of this started to evolve. I would love to know what the spark was that when you knew that you had something inside of you that mattered to the world. What was the world feedback that gave you that?
I love the way you asked that question. How did you How did you know that this was like, what was the feedback from the world kind of a thing? Because it's interesting because like I'm like the opposite of a woo woo type of person. So like language like that is like not in my natural vocabulary. However, the framing of that is very accurate because I like my life philosophy is I just do whatever's next. Like do whatever's next is probably what might as well be on my tombstone someday. And so what had happened is I was, a full-time magician. I've been working as a magician for nearly a decade. And in 2015, I was not setting my sights on being a speaker. There was no, I didn't like, I viewed motivational speakers as like Tony Robbins, like that's what I knew of that world, and I hated it. I just thought it was, not that he's not a great speaker, but I just was exhausted by that kind of thing. I thought it was super cheesy, and as mentioned, not a woo-woo kind of person. And I didn't realize the depth and nuance of the speaking industry and all these different ways you could be a speaker. So in 2015, two things happened at the same time. I got invited to the TEDx talk, which was, I got a phone call. Just, I'm walking through a dark parking lot of a banquet hall going in to do magic tricks at like a corporate event for a couple hours. And my phone rings. And when you're self-employed and scrambling together money doing magic tricks for a living to pay for both you and your fiance's life because she's in school full time and you're supporting both of you, you got to answer the phone because it could be someone who wants to hire you. And if I don't answer the phone, they're just going to find the next magician on Google and they'll be hired by the time I get back to them later, right? So I answered the phone on my way into this corporate event. And this guy's like, "Hi, my name is Parag Joshi. I'm a teacher at the local high school. We're putting on a TEDx conference at the high school. We got your name from some folks in the community who said you might be interesting to speak. Do you have any interest in speaking at our TEDx event?" And that I was just freaked out, right? Because like I've been following TED Talks forever, but this was not on my bingo card. It wasn't on my vision board. I just said, "Oh my God, I would love to speak at your TEDx conference. I'm walking in to do magic tricks for 2 hours. Can I call you tomorrow?" And he goes, "Sure." And we hung up. And I just had no idea in that moment that my life had just changed forever. Like just no idea. So one, I got a call out of nowhere from somebody who got my name from somebody if I would come speak at a TEDx event. And simultaneously, within a week or so of that, a college prep high school, a special private high school in the area called me, who I had never heard of, did not know this school existed, called me and said, "Would you be interested in giving the commencement speech to our graduating seniors? We've got your name. We've heard you've done really interesting things. It would be really cool to hear from someone interesting like you who's made it as a magician and have some part." So that speech and the TEDx were in the same month of the same year. And so I had two opportunities to do a quote speaking engagement. And so when you say like, what did the universe, like hand you, show you, whatever, it was like I had two different opportunities, two completely different talks where I had to ask myself the question, what have I learned as a magician that would be valuable to non-magicians? It was twice in the span of a month that I had to ask myself that question. What have I learned as a magician that would be valuable to graduating 17 and 18-year-olds heading off to college and their families? What would be valuable to future YouTube viewers who I have no idea who they are? And the big thought process for me was I went and looked at TED Talks that had been given by magicians. And in 2015, there were very few of them. This is early days in the TEDx program. And all of those TED Talks that have been given by magicians were about things that I thought only magicians care about these things. It was like the beauty of wonder, the art of misdirection, the psychology of deception. I was like, this is crap magicians care about. Like, I geek out on that, but like, you geek out on that with other magicians at 3 o'clock in the morning in the lobby of a Holiday Inn Express after a magic convention in a Mountain Dew fueled haze. You know what I mean? I was like, this is not useful to normal people. What do I know that's useful to normal people? And so the TEDx was built on magicians learn how to do perspective taking, how to make quick, meaningful connections with others. And the commencement speech was built on you have to fail tremendously and publicly over and over as a magician to get good at magic. There's no way to get good at magic without failing tremendously and publicly over and over. And so those two different speeches happened the same month, and it gave me the first taste of doing speaking in a way that was authentic to me and not what I thought speaking had to be, which was this motivational nonsense that I didn't like.
Which is what you didn't like about other speakers that have
Yes.
the woo-woo thing. Yeah.
Yes.
I was always scared to death to be woo woo, even though I probably totally was, because it's how I see the world. And we need a little woo woo sometimes, right? When it gets too
Listen,
like,
to each their own. Different ways of speaking attract different kinds of people. So there are people. I mean, the success of the motivational speaker industry, the amount of people who go to those events and the self help clearly indicates
they
there are
don't
people
do
for
anything.
that.
Yeah, they just don't do anything except for like a, to me, that's what became like, that was my thing that was like, I get it. And then when I get caught on it and somebody asks me what I do, then I go all, woo woo too, or used to, before I realize that's really not what people want to know. They want to know what you can do for them.
That's
So
right.
it's like,
That's right.
it's very similar to what you were just saying. It's great when I'm talking around, because I love consciousness and awareness and how to be more evolving and all of that stuff. But that doesn't mean anything to regular people in the world. But
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, right? Because this is where the crossover in my career happened, where I've like made a career as a speaker on human connection, but I also run a consulting firm that does message design for experts, where we do communication training, right? And so this is actually the crossover, which is whether you're trying to make a meaningful interpersonal connection with a human, or you're trying to deliver a message to, get your ideas out into the world, you have the same problem. And the problem is most people communicate with, what do I want to say? That's the question. They say, what do I want to say? Same in a interpersonal relationship, same for a speaker, an expert, somebody who's talking about their ideas. That is the wrong question. The question is, or it should be, what do they need to hear? That shift from what do I want to say to what do they need to hear, that's the magic.
so yeah, it is the magic if you can find it, but it's hell if you don't know what. Because you said something in another, I think it was the video that you had sent me, that was where you were sharing, and I got, you said it like as a matter of fact, but in my mind I was like, my God, I would give anything to know what that little thing that just came out of your mouth meant. Like, how do you see from? Oh, you're talking about learning to see from other people's perspective. I struggle with that, and I vision things all of the time. But like, why is it so damn difficult to envision what other people are going through? Like, what is that energetic? Or you may not see it as energetic, but what's the damn deal there?
Yeah. Okay. So this
Because
is
it's
such a
tough.
great question. No, it's such a great question. It is not just hard to know what someone else's perspective it is. It is effectively impossible. And this is something that you learn, that I learned actually from my wife, who was my fiance in the TED Talk. People, it's funny having a viral TED Talk. 10 years later, people just watched it today, and so they say, "How's your fiance?" And I'm like, "We're coming up on our 10-year wedding anniversary." That's the weird time travel that happens in the internet.
Yeah.
But my wife is a therapist. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist, and what you learn in therapy, one of the foundational tenets of therapy is you cannot understand the perspective of another human. And so much of the trouble we get into is that we think we can. We have this idea, we think we can read people's minds. We think, I've known this person a long time, or I have a sense of who they are, and I can guess at their thoughts, beliefs, feelings. We're they've shown in study after study how tremendously bad we are at doing this, even with people you think you know really well, like a longtime spouse or a best friend or a sibling or your parents, something like that. So why are we so bad at it? We're bad because we don't have access to other people's internal states. So the question is, well, then how do you do it? How do you actually connect with somebody? How do you understand what they need to hear? And the answer is so simple that it sounds stupid to say out loud. Stop guessing, start asking. We need to ask. You can ask people for their perspective. They will tell you. We get so nervous to ask people meaningful, relevant questions, let alone deep, interesting questions, because we think it's weird to do that because everyone's always stuck in that superficial small talk thing. We think it's weird to ask something real or deep. We think they'll be offended, or maybe they're a private person. We think they'll think we're stupid for not already knowing the answer. Just none of these things are true. Like 9 out of 10 times, none of these things are true. Once in a while, someone thinks that, it's fine. They're not for you. It's fine. Most of the time, people are thrilled to answer a meaningful question, because when you ask a truly meaningful question, people feel seen. They feel like you're treating them as a real human and not merely a means to an end, not merely a transaction, as we tend to be treated and we tend to treat others by accident all the time. So, if you want to get someone else's perspective in order to be able to make your communication relevant to them, ask them questions. Ask them about themselves. Ask them about their opinions, their thoughts, their beliefs, their fears.
So I'm having my own moment here. So in coaching, this is very similar to I have a style where I just say up front, if you want the best of me, I can't filter. I just blunt it out to you, and that's the most powerful way I can coach you. But it's sometimes it can be jarring because I just let it fly, because I don't know how to bridge that gap. Like it just comes to me, and I just want to. The niceties sometimes dilute what the thing is that they really need to hear. That's going to cause the shift. So, but in hearing you say that, it's because I don't take the time to ask. You just opened up another door that I can explore that would make that process flow even better. That's why I'm doing this podcast, is because I don't want to talk about surface things. I don't want to get on a podcast with somebody and go, hi, I help people with, no.
Yeah.
I get 45,000 messages like that every day on LinkedIn. I delete all of them
Yeah.
because I don't need 30,000 people telling me how to market. I need one person that connects with me, which I thank God I found is my CMO. Like that helped me. I wouldn't be here. I would not be here with talking to you right now had he not seen me and heard me. And like I get chills thinking about it. It's like that changed my whole life. Having somebody see me for what I was trying to do, because it's deeper than money. I really want to help people build things that change the world, because the world needs it right now. And I know how damn difficult it is to have an idea and not be able to fulfill on it, because it's kind of been my damn life. And like when that all fell off when my dad passed, and then I started to meet the people that actually saw me, and everything started to flow, and I started to see myself making an impact, and it literally changed everything. And then something that had eluded me in my entire life was the consistency and sticking with something beyond that initial surface. Oh, that didn't work. I put a video on YouTube and nobody watched it, and like I'm a failure. So yeah, no.
Well,
But at the same time, like
it's the same thing that
what do you
people do in their
yeah, go ahead.
interpersonal relationships. I mean, just for what it's worth, that like I put a YouTube video up, it got no views. I must be awful and terrible and nobody likes me, so I won't try again. It's the same thing that happens when I get people that come up and they say, I tried to start a conversation with a stranger, like someone in Starbucks, and they just were not interested. And they think, therefore, I should never ever try to start a conversation with a stranger again. Clearly, I'm being annoying, or they don't like me, or whatever. There's this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that person. It's just that person in that moment was not interested in having a conversation. The human connection is a gift. It's a gift that we offer people, but people are by no means required to accept that gift, right? You can offer the gift. You can put it out there into the world as often as you can, with everything that you've got. And then the people who choose to accept it will choose to accept it. You control your intention, you control your actions, you do not control the outcomes, you don't control other people. So I think in a loneliness epidemic, which we are in and is worse than it's ever been, in a world where 2 out of 3 Americans report feeling lonely or isolated on a regular basis, the most generous thing you can do is offer the gift of connection. The most selfish thing you can do is not say anything because you're worried about looking stupid or feeling like a failure.
Being with the silence, like, and when I first started doing this podcasting stuff, that was like, I listened to some of this back and I'm like, God, could you just like give a break? Like, so somebody could breathe. But I was so concerned about filling the space and the performance that just kind of like happens, or whatever you think it is. But after you settle into it and then you do develop the connection, it doesn't matter what somebody's doing, or you see the light in everything and everybody. So I mean, I am definitely light years ahead of where I used to be, but there's like such fine tuning that has to for me that had to happen or is happening as I continue to pivot to, not being what you said at that attachment thing. That's really difficult for people that create, and build things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
listen, I've lived my life as an artist. I was a magician. And I make my day job as a speaker. I mean, it's all creative work, and it feels very vulnerable to put yourself out there and have somebody say, "I'm not interested." However, I'm reminded often, my hero, mentor, friend, Seth Godin, he talks about the practice, and he talks about how a good practice can lead to good outcomes, but it doesn't guarantee them, right? Like there's no guarantee that just because even if you're doing it right, something right, or you're doing it with great intentions, it doesn't mean that you will get good outcomes. It just makes it more likely that you will. But there's also the other element of this, which is something that Seth talks about a lot, and I think about, it's like this lives rent free in my head, which is people say things like, it's vulnerable to I'm putting myself out there and they're rejecting me. And he's like, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the work. You are not the same as your work. You're not the same as your creative output. If you write a song and you put it out there and people don't like the song, you feel rejected, like they're rejecting who you are, because your art is very personal, but they're not.
yeah,
They're rejecting the song. They didn't like that song. The song is not you. It's got elements of you. It was created by you, but it is not you. Even my speech, it's me delivering the speech. My stories and my opinions are in there, but the speech is not me. If someone doesn't like my speech, it's not an indictment on who I am as a person. It's them saying, this work that you just did was not to my taste. Okay? That doesn't mean it doesn't hurt, but it's not the same as being rejected as a human being, as a person with value. And separating that is hard. I'm not to downplay how hard that is, but that's the separation that has to happen. Otherwise, you won't do the work.
yeah. And that's where the practice and the continuity come, and being aware of that, and making that a part of the life, and making sure that the things that I'm creating, I'm not creating, being aware that I'm not creating another job, because I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I want to have every part of my life loving and be in alignment with who I am. And as much as I could put that in, and I'm getting really good at it, it's about damn time, because I'm almost 60. So it's like, it's damn time to get this figured out. But I talk to so many people now every single day that are in this space of, I was working at Amazon 3 weeks ago. I do not have that job anymore. This thing that's been in the back of my mind for years, and now I'm doing it. So just every day I see this space emerging, and this is an insight that I had, as things are, life is just destruction and creation. And I saw this, and the mistrust of the corporate worlds and all of those things is birthing something new that I get to support. And I'm really, really grateful to be a part of it, and keep going, even though I don't know how that's going to end. And for me, that's my version of not being attached to the outcome. That I know what I'm doing, and I have an expanded space of awareness that something magical's happened, because I've never had that feedback before, because isolation is part of that journey of building something. It's part of what I'm committed to solving and connection to. So I resonate with that with you, even though we're going about it in different ways. But
Yeah.
I totally feel you. It's a missing in the world. But as someone who positions himself as rebranding experts or bringing the value of an expert back, do you ever get that syndrome where people see you as the expert, and like, does that ever mess with you? Or like, when you're aware of somebody around you and they kind of get, what's the word? Like fangirl out or fanboy out or something like that. Does that ever happen to you?
Uh, a little bit, only in very specific. It's like I'm like incredibly famous in an incredibly tiny niche of the world, and incredibly anonymous everywhere else in life. Because of the TED Talk and the nature of, like, if you're in that world, and get people who, I gave a keynote yesterday, and a woman came up after it. practically shaking at the knees, and she said, I saw you speak like back in 2019, and I bought your book, and I gave your book to all of to my kids, and while you were just up on stage, I was taking photos and sending it to them, and oh, there's this one story from the book that I wish you had told here, but of course you told a different one, which is great. Like, it's this whole thing. It is weird and overwhelming. To borrow a line from one of my favorite comedians, Brian Regan, man, I would not want to be famous. Not that I've been asked. So, it's like my tiny little brush up against that, like, quote unquote fame. It is weird because when someone's doing that, they mean well, but you don't feel like a human when they're doing that. Cause like she's doing that. She's got this like idea like of Brian Miller, the brand in her head, this TED Talk guy. And I'm just like a dude who's hungry right now. Like, I'm just a person who like hasn't eaten because I had a speech today and I'd like to get some food. Would you like to eat and talk as a person with me? So there's a little bit of that. I also, the word expert, I was laughing about this. One of the easiest ways to tell that someone's actually an expert is if they flat out reject that terminology. If you're talking to somebody and you're like, well, you're an expert on marine biology, if they are really an expert, you will watch them viscerally react and go, no, I'm not an expert. And that's like, I guarantee you that person is an expert because people who are actually experts are so aware of how much they don't know because of how much they do. The more you know about something, the more you realize how much you don't know. And it makes you feel not like an expert. It's the inverse of the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect, right, is, for listeners who have not heard that term, is summed up best by Stephen Fry, who said, you have to be reasonably smart to know how dumb you are. In other words, the Dunning-Kruger effect is if you don't know anything about a topic, you think you know a ton. Because if you know one or two things about it, you're like, I'm a genius. I know all this stuff. I could solve all these problems. But the more you learn about a topic, you start to realize how much you don't yet know, how many questions there are, how many ambiguities there are. And so then experts develop imposter syndrome. They think, well, I'm not an expert. I don't know anything about this. And my job, and here's why that matters, though, to your question. That matters because experts develop imposter syndrome. Therefore, they lose confidence in how they speak. They want to put caveats on everything. They want to hedge on all their language. And then they don't sound confident and people don't trust them. And it is a huge problem. And it's like my life's work to get experts to confidently state what they know and what they believe so people will trust them and listen to them again.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000%. And you're right. It's that cowing down. I don't really want people to know because I admit it. Like it was prevalent in my conversation. And I heard you say that in one of your videos, your 5 things that you're like, don't make assertions, do judgments.
Yeah.
I apologize. I don't know the other ones,
Yeah,
but like, it's off the top of my head, but like
assertions, judgments, predictions. That's it. Yeah.
And, like I started my training in 1996. Like I went to my first like AHA seminar thing. It was called Landmark Education. That was the thing that first time I found out what the word ontological was, or I never heard that word before. Like never even like knew that was a thing. What do you mean? What do you mean? Other people have that little voice in their head? I didn't know that. So it was like, but that's what sparked everything. And in that conversation, there is clear communication, which I'm so grateful that I figured that out and had it in my life. But I wouldn't use it whenever I was talking about this or that because I was very scared to ever bring up anything that would trigger somebody's religious stuff. I would get that a lot, and I grew up in a very religious background, and it was a definite thing that was bigger than I thought I could ever communicate with. And that was why I would, when I was training to speak back in the day, that was always the coaches would always be like, you have to have all your buttons pressed. And I knew that button wasn't pressed, and I knew I didn't have it. So that's why I didn't ever do it, was that. And the past 5 or 6 years, I really took that to heart, and I've started to understand that I can still be there. In fact, my religious background, growing up in it, actually gives me a caveat to talk about it in a new way, which I found empowering. So I love this. I love this conversation. But I really want to get from your perspective, like, what's next for you? What is exciting? What's pulling you into your future for 2026?
Yeah, I mean, what's pulling me into my future for 2026? Well, what's next for us, and I say us to mean my consulting firm. A lot of my focus is on my consulting firm now. I think of careers as seasons. I have seasons of my career. There were seasons when I was very focused on my own speaking. I was doing 15, 20 engagements a month. I was living in airports. And this season, I am still speaking, but only once or twice a month. I'm very curated now. One, I have a 5-year-old, so having a kid at this age, I don't want to be away from home more than I have to be. And two, my consulting firm has been growing. The work we do, the impact that we're able to have as a company doing this kind of message design for experts is so exponentially larger than what I can do as an individual with the one topic that I'm an expert in, quote unquote, right? Expert in, right? So it's like me in human connection. I can have a great, like yesterday, I had 70 pharmacists from the state of Connecticut in a room with me to be the closing keynote about human connection. Big impact on a tiny little niche and 60 or 70 people. That's great. But if we can, example of marine biologist, if we can get a client who is a marine biologist who collaborates with NASA on the next generation of animal telemetry, which is animal tracking, if we can help this dude figure out how to communicate about his work to the people who need to hear it, which might be the public because they might need public support. It might be, stakeholders, folks who can provide funding. There's all, collaborators. If we can help this guy get his message out clearly, the ripple effect for decades to come on planet Earth is immense. It's just massive. And so, because we've found this niche that we're so good at with certain kinds of people, getting experts to speak more like quote unquote thought leaders. Sidebar, hate the term thought leaders. It's the one we have. We're going to work with it, right? And so, if we can get them to, I say, people treat thought leader as a noun. It's not. It's a verb. It's not something you are. It's something you do. So we get experts to do thought leadership, which is a very different way of speaking. And if we can get people like that to speak more confidently, to speak more trustworthy, to get buy-in for their ideas, the exponential growth, the exponential impact that we can have on the world is just so much more than me on stage on one topic for one small group of people. So that's where my focus is.
I love that. And it's so, you're right. That's the same way I'm focused with the founders. Like, how can I help the biggest amount of people with the smallest amount of impact? Because that's how that's how I can win. And
Small lever, big impact. Yeah.
Thank you. That is amazing. Before we leave, though, I really want to ask you, like, so I'm fascinated by just say the thing behind you. So, so I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to challenge you to go outside the earth, looking down at all the people and all the stuff that's happening right now. I'm going to ask you to say the thing. What would you say? What needs to be said? What needs to be said?
All right, I have two. One, every interaction is meaningful. Every person you meet is important. That's one. The other, I'm going to borrow a phrase from a philosopher, and I'm going to say it in normal words because philosophers don't do that. Everything that can be said clearly.
Sure can. And clarity is the only thing the universe really responds to. So,
especially in an age of noise.
Who that person? Man, that's incredible. I cannot wait to listen to that back and hear that again. That's incredible. But ever since I saw that thing, I was like, just say the thing. Because that gives me chills. Like, just say the thing.
It's the reason I have it printed on one of my, for the folks who's only listening and not on YouTube, I have a kind of a recording studio built into my house, which is like, I went to school for audio engineering a million years ago, so I'm an audio geek, so I have sound treatment everywhere. But I had we have a literally registered trademark, but it's a phrase, just say the thing. It's like the tagline of my company. And I had it printed custom on one of my sound panels, which is very intentionally set right behind me where you could always see it on camera. And it does a few things. One, it's a great, what you just did. It's a great conversation starter. But also, every time I'm on a session with a client who's rambling and cannot get their point, I just have to slightly turn and just gesture behind me. I don't have to do a lot. I'm like, come on, man. So it's a good reminder to them and to me.
Yeah.
And to me. I can ramble too. I'm a human. I can ramble. So yeah.
Love the clarity though. It's just, yeah, it's better. Man, I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun. I've gotten a ton out of it, and you just made my day. So I appreciate it. And then I know people listening to this conversation, is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we kick it?
No, I'm thrilled to be here, thrilled to be having a conversation at all. I guess I'll leave you with this to the specific folks who are listening, founders and things like this. Ideas don't speak for themselves. People do. So speak up for your ideas.
Yeah, speak up for them. Man, thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening in. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing this podcast. I appreciate it. I see the numbers. It's awesome. But that's all we're doing is just having a conversation to inspire you to maybe go have one of your own. So thank you for this amazing conversation, Brian. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.